Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Apologies that we are,
Good
yeah,
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
hope we had an amazing week. Apology, we're starting by this time.
It's okay.
All right. So how's our week been?
Fine.
Amazing. All right. So please can anybody just quickly run us through what we did last week? So before we start the class for today. So just run us through what we did last week.
Yeah, we did the goal of manual testing. Then we also talk about type of manual testing, right? Then how to perform manual testing, which has to do with the read, draft, review, execute, report box. And when the box is already fixed, you have to retest again to check the failing the test. Understand, to verify if it passed. So we also discussed about the minds of manual testing, that testing requires the many skills, or it's 100% defect. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can. Please go on. Please go on, sir.
Yeah, okay. So we talk about the mind, the standard. Software testing ensure 100% defect clear, that there is no defect, 100%, which is not true. So we also talk about manual testing and automation testing, the different type. Sorry, the difference between both of them, which has to do with the automated use of tools. It handle a larger cases, more critical cases more than manual require human intervention, but that of automation requires some tools to carry out the cases, and it save time. Understand? So, but manual testing requires skills, labor skills, and all of that. So we also talk about a different type of automation. We mentioned all this type of automation with which you said that is only the engineer and the developer, they are the one who are, automation, The automation has to do with, instead of using manual, use automation. So the automation, those people who are carrying out automation, they are the one that is referred as an engineer, understand, testing engineer, right? So we talked about that. Then we talk about unit testing, So we also talk about type of integrated testing. We talk about bang tests, big bang test, understand, that has to do with all systems be combined together. All the modules must be completed before you can carry out the test, which can only be used for small units, because for a bigger unit, nobody can wait for that. It will take time. So we talk about incremental rather. We talk about incremental, which has to do with the one that are relatively available, then you can start testing. It's not like big bang test that you have to wait, something like that. Then we talk about sub and driver, which has to do with using dummy to replace the missing modules. It's just there, nothing. I'm not actually doing anything, but it's just there. So something like that. Then bottom up, you have to start from the list before you go to the advanced one. Then top down, you have to start from the advanced one down to the least one, just like that. The sandwich has to do with both sides. So that is what we discuss. That is what I can grasp. Yeah. Though I have a question for you, Sha, but that's okay. But this is what I'm able to summarize.
Yeah, we can come back to the question later. Thank you so much, Mr. Jeremiah. All right, Ogechi, please, can you quickly run us through what we did last week before we proceed? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jeremiah has already said more part of it, and the least I can remember, we talked about test cases to automate, Then which has to do with test cases that are difficult to handle manually, test cases that are time consuming, and we also talked about test tool selection, define the scope of automation, text execution and maintenance. We talked about framework for automation, which is data-driven automation, keyword, modular and hybrid. Then we talked about benefit automation and benefit of automation testing. We talked about how to choose automation testing and the rest of that.
All right, Ogechi, thank you so much. Please, can you pass it to the next person? Mr. Kim, thank you. Mr. Kim, are you there? Is Mr. Kim here, please? If you're speaking, Mr. Kim, you're muted. Hi, Mr. Kim, if you're speaking, you're muted, or would you like to drop a chat? All right. Can everybody hear me, please?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Jeremiah, can you go ahead with your question before we move on with the activity we have for today? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we were talking about increment and incremental. Sorry, I didn't do what increment. Incremental and bottom up. Understand? So bottom up means that you have to start from the list, right? Understand? And starting from the list, the one that are related, logically related, that is what you start from the start. So now it's more or less like the same thing with incremental. Incremental, you have to also start based on what you have available. Understand? So I was thinking, what is the difference? Hello? Hello?
I'm sorry, Mr. Jeremiah, I didn't know I was muted. Please, can you come again?
Okay. We're talking about increment, right? Incremental rather. Incremental and bottom up. You understand? Incremental and bottom up. Bottom up, you start from the list, from the list to the advance. So the list, the one that are logically related, that is what you start from. It's done maybe from logging in to the page. And bottom up, so bottom increment is also, you can't wait for like big bang that you have to wait for everything is completed. But yeah, but for increment, you have to start with what you have available, right? Understand? Whatever modules are available that is logically related, that is what you will start from, right? So it's like bottom up and increment, they are almost the same thing.
Yeah, so Mr. Jeremiah, right? So bottom up and top down, they are examples of incremental.
Okay.
Remember, that's we discussed it. So that's why I had to go back to this slide to show you. So they are examples of incremental.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So sorry for that question.
No worries. No worries. All right, we would begin. I'm sorry, just a minute, please. So I just need to get something sorted. Thank you. All right. I believe we're going to have a good time today. Thank you so much, everyone. Where did we stop? So, we looked at unit testing last week. We also saw integration testing. So we'll be moving forward to system testing. So, but first of all, we're going to be looking at the various test levels. Well, we've already been looking at that from unit testing to integration, and then further on, we'll see what system testing is all about. But I would like us to know that test levels are a group of test activities that are organized and managed together. So each test level is an instance of the test process and then is performed in relation to software at a given stage of development, right? So from the point of unit testing, who can tell me who performs the unit testing? Is a question for all of us.
Yeah, the unit testing is done by the developer. Understand? Then those an engineer, testing engineer, I think we'll call it software engineer.
Yeah, QA.
Yeah, they can also
Thank
do
you.
with automation. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. You're actually correct, actually. Thank you for that. Then integration testing. So this is where we now come in, right? So we've looked at the unit testing. So the integration testing, we've seen the bottom-up approach, we've seen the top-down. We've all seen the sandwich method where you have to combine the both. That's both the bottom-up and also the top-down together. Then you have the big bang where you have to wait till every model is complete before you now carry out your testing. So all of these are examples of test levels. So we'll be looking at system testing, which is the next. So for system testing, right, what it focuses on is the overall or complete behavior and capability of an entire system or product, basically functionalities. So system testing is for functionalities. You want to know how that product or how that system actually functions, right? So I would explain further. So it's basically, it has to do with end-to-end testing. So if for login button now, or you're looking at a sign-up page, you actually want to know the functionalities behind the sign-up page. Even for the login, when you want to log in, of course, you click on a button, login. Okay, you want to know, okay, what's the functionality of that login button? So that's what system testing is all about, wanting to know the functionalities of the entire system or the product. So it is a test that is performed on a completely integrated system, right? So that means it cannot be on, it cannot stand alone. The various system actually needs to be integrated, just like we discussed, okay, from login, sign up, and then you go to the dashboard and all that. So it needs to be integrated before you can now perform the system testing, because this has to do with learning or knowing about the functionalities of the entire system or the product. So system testing detects defects within both the integrated unit and the whole system. So it would actually detect, oh, there's a bug. Okay, if I was going to log in and then I was supposed to go to the dashboard, something actually happened. Oh no, this system is not flowing as it ought to be. So you now log your defect and all that stuff. So it has to do with the entire system or the entire product. I'll use an example. I've been talking about login, sign up. I've been talking about dashboard. For example, your mobile application. I would use, since we're all Nigerians, I'll probably use, or okay, we're in the UK actually. So if you're using a Revolut or you're using a Monzo, so first thing first, either you have a where you have to log in your password, or if you're using face recognition, then it takes you to the dashboard immediately. That's for users that have created an account already. If you've not created an account, first thing first is that you would have to log on to Revolut app or download the app. After downloading the app, right? After you're downloading the app, you're signing up. From that sign up, you've created your details using a valid username and password, and also some other questions that they would ask you. And then you create an account, and then they'll now send you an email to verify your email. So you can see. So system testing has to do with that. All these functionalities are actually like working and all, and you're looking at the entire product. So after you sign up and then you log into the app, so you're going to the dashboard, you're going to where you can either add money, you can send money and all that. So the functionality of that entire system is what system testing actually looks out for. So if there are defects in that entire functionality or defects in that product, so you can be able to log the flow, right, from one model to another. So that's what system testing is all about. So you're wanting to know the behavior. I'll use that word. You're wanting to know the behavior, right, of that product, if it actually works as it should work. Do we have any questions before we go ahead, please?
Okay, system testing has to do with the generality of the software, how it or the application, how it works.
Yeah. So the behavior of the application.
The application.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Any more questions before we move ahead, please? All right. Then we have system integration. So this has to do with testing the interfaces of the system. So when you say basically the interface, right? So apart from just major functionalities in a system, there's like a subsystem. So maybe when we go to the dashboard, under send money, you have either, let me even open my app now so that I can just talk from it. Revolut, using my face scan. So I'm going to payment, and then I have search. I have some other models, or I have some other systems. So they are like subsystem, because system testing might not be able to cover the subs. It's just covering the major functionalities or the major behavior of that product. So system integration actually goes further. It goes deeper. So you're looking at the subsystem of that product, right? For where you have to add people, where you have to search, where you have to probably do some other thing. So that's what system integration actually goes for. You can see subsystem, because some of our applications, they have subsystems, right? So system integration actually covers that. So you're running tests on that, and then you'd have to come up with test cases that would actually cover the scenarios for the subsystem. So that's all for system integration.
Wait. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. You were using Revolut for the subsystem. You were using Revolut, right? You were using Revolut. So I'm still trying to grasp this subsystem, because now the system testing has to do with the behavior of the total application.
Yes.
Understand? Now, you said, but the system integration testing, for the outward integration, it means it goes deeper.
It goes deeper. So is the
So which
overall,
deeper?
yeah,
Which
so
is
it's
the
the
deeper?
overall testing of the whole system, which is composed of many subsystems. So our system testing, you might not be able to cover the subsystem, but as system integration, you're not covering all those subsystems. So you're going deeper.
Yeah, subsystem. What do you mean by so? You use Revolut. Can you use Revolut again for
Okay,
this system integration?
okay. So I'm logging into my Revolut app. Well, let me just put the password.
You can also send us some money too.
Okay, so in my Revolut app, if you go to, I don't know how many of us use Revolut.
I
Yeah,
do.
I do. Okay, let me go to my Revolut app as well. Okay.
Are we all on
Okay.
our Revolut apps if we actually use it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, so I just logged in now with my password. So it has taken me to the dashboard. So
Yes.
system testing is taking you to where you can do payments. So for payments, you see the people that you've added, you sent money to, or they sent money to you, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. Yes, yes.
Exactly. And then you have the plus sign where you can also add people, add the Revolut friend, bank recipient, card recipient, and all that.
Group.
So you're actually
Absolutely.
knowing the behavior of how that works. You
Yes.
also have, when you go back to home, you have where you can add money. So where you're adding your pounds, your dollars, or anything, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So for system integration, so if we have like we have other things, right? So we have other subsystem where you have more, you have your details,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have statements, you have converter, you
Yeah.
have theme, you have add new accounts.
Yeah.
Have you seen them? So those are basically like subsystems. Then you also have, yeah. So you also have other things where you can also like trade crypto and all that, because the major thing you're looking at for this particular app is that you can send and receive money.
Okay, which
Yes.
the ones we are seeing.
Exactly. So your major use of this app is just to send and receive money, is it not?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're going to other subsystems or other things, is looking at trade crypto, because I can see crypto here.
Yes.
I can see lifestyle here.
Yes.
I can see where they are telling me to get personalized offers.
Yes.
So that's just it. So that's like going deeper into the app now.
Being
Uh-huh.
subsystems.
Now you come. Thank you. I was trying to get it. I couldn't. Well, with this explanation.
Yeah, so it's going, so you're going
So
deeper.
basically the system integration is the additional
All those additional features.
features. Okay.
Yeah, subsystems. Because the major use of this app is that I send and receive money. But if I'm going into crypto, I've seen miles, I've seen where I can do experiences, insurance, donation, shops, eSIM, all those ones. All those ones are add-ons, their features and all, exactly. So I'm not going deeper to now start testing all those ones.
Okay.
Very clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next one is user acceptance testing. All right, so this type of testing is actually to validate. It focuses on further validation, right? And is used to confirm the team readiness for deployment. So this is where user acceptance is always performed, is normally performed by the users, by the owner of the software, that's the product owner. So you say your system, your software or your application is ready. Okay, let me test it. Let me see that all that I said I wanted my app to be is actually there. And then the owner starts testing it. So also ensure that it fulfills that the user's business needs and also the requirements. Taking us back to the requirement documentation, that was given to us by the business analyst and also the product owner. So this test is normally performed by the owner of the software. So the owner will actually get maybe like 2 or 3 people, probably his stakeholders, that would also come in the meeting, and then they start testing to know if the software team have actually fulfilled the requirement that was already documented in that user documentation that we have. Do we have any question on this?
So the tester, sorry, the user, they also know how to test.
So what they will be doing in the exploratory, just like when you download your mobile app.
Through what has been
So,
created, right?
exactly. So what they'll be doing in the is exploratory. So they already defined what they wanted, right? They
Okay, they'll probably
documented what
checking
they
it.
wanted. So
Yeah.
they'll be checking it. Okay, what I wanted, they might not be able to document it. So they are using the business analyst or the project manager to document their needs, but they have that picture of what they want.
Yeah.
So presenting the app to them now, they are testing it to know if it fulfills all if everything that they need has been captured in the app. So,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's not that they might know how to test, but what they will be doing is actually exploratory testing. So they are just going through, they are exploring, okay, this is the mobile app. Okay. I'm looking at it. I'm checking it. Okay. I know I wanted it to have this. Does it have it? Okay, it does. Oh, okay, maybe an improvement can be done here or there. And then they give feedback to the
So
software.
the functionality, some of this app like this Revolut needs internet. So for the functionality, is it going to be when it goes live, or how are they going to
It's
test the
already on
function?
a test environment.
Okay.
So even though you're already connected to do tests, you actually need to be connected to the internet already. So it's already in the test environment actually. So before it is deployed live, that's the one that will go live to users. Exactly. So you're already, for your work, you're already connected to the internet, because you'll be in a test environment where it will be as if, oh, this product is already like, no, but that's the test
Online.
environment. Exactly.
All right.
So this type of testing is just to validate, okay, what I said is just like what I ordered versus what I got. That's what it is. So, okay, what I ordered, is it what I'm getting? So validating, okay, that my business needs have been captured, and then it has fulfilled my needs and requirements. So that's all. As you can see, the name implies user acceptance testing. So, and there are types of it. You have user acceptance testing, UAT, operational acceptance testing, contractual and regulatory acceptance testing, alpha testing, and beta testing. For contractual, it's just to know if it meets the regulatory requirement and all. But we'll go further into this actually when we discuss more on user acceptance. But this is just to give you an overview of what the levels of testing it's all about. All right, do we have any questions at this point, or do I proceed, please?
Proceed.
So we've gone through the levels of testing. Now, we are now proceeding to the 4 test types. So the levels of testing, there are levels of testing, and there are types of testing. So the types of testing, we have functional testing, we have non-functional testing, we have black box testing, and we also have white box testing. So I'll be explaining further as we move on to the next slide. For functional testing, what does this entail? Sorry, just excuse me.
Functional testing.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just coming. I just want to move this up. Yeah. So basically, functional testing is testing all of the functions that a component or system should perform. It's just testing the functionalities, right? So the functions are what the test object should do. The main object of functional testing is checking the functional completeness, functional correctness, and functional appropriateness as outlined in the user requirements. So you want to know that these functionalities are actually working and how it has been captured in the user documentation. So basically testing functionalities, that's what I'll put it at. So these are the types of testing. That's for functional testing. Do we have any question at this point?
Can you take the slide back?
Okay.
Okay, it's called 4 test types.
Four
Okay.
test types. So it's different from the levels of
4
test.
test types.
Yeah.
4 test types.
So this one has to do with the test type.
Okay.
All right. Then for non-functional testing, right, is basically testing the behavior, how the system behaves. Remember when we were talking about the levels of testing? So the behavior, who can tell me at the level, what level of testing speaks about behavior?
Non-functional testing.
No, this is type. I meant for level.
Oh, okay.
For levels of testing, we just went through it. Please don't break my heart.
Which one are you talking about? That's the
So how the system behaves is captured at what level of testing?
I think that should be that should be sorry.
People are breaking my heart.
Wait,
Wow.
we are not. That is system testing now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Then if you're not talking about functionalities now, right? Sorry, if you're talking about if you're trying to go deeper, so what level of testing when you're talking about subsystems?
That's system integration.
Exactly. Thank you. All right, so non-functional testing is the testing of how well the system behaves. So you want to know how well it behaves, right? So it goes further to characterize them into different different stratas. You have performance testing. So basically you're checking the stress, you're checking the load. For example, you have your mobile app for Revolut now. I'm sure when they brought out the app, maybe they'll say like, okay, oh, this is our launch date. Okay, how many people that are using the app at the same time, it will not crash. So they are trying to check the load and stress, how much the app can accommodate, right? Even when you're on your web application, okay, if people, like if you have maybe like 1 million users coming in, will the system crash? So that's what you're trying to check out for, because you need to actually know, right, that your application can accommodate this amount of users. So that's what performance testing actually covers. Then you have compatibility testing. It's basically testing if, okay, does my application, does it work across all browsers, database, operating system, or mobile? So for browsers now, can this system work on Safari? Can it also work on Google Chrome? Can it work on Opera Mini? Can it work on the Mozilla Firefox that they closed one other time? Can it work on Microsoft Edge? So you're trying to test if this your web application can go all through sorts. Then for even database too, and also operating system, right? So you want to know if this application can also work can it be downloaded for Play Store or Apple Store? So you actually want to know all that when testing. Then for usability, you're trying to know if it can be usable, right, by users. How user-friendly is it? So you know there are some applications that are not user-friendly. Like it will take time for you to understand how this application works. It will take time for users to actually understand the rudiment of the application. So usability testing, because feedback will be given, okay, this application is not user-friendly. Some things needs to be broken down so that users can actually understand how an application works. Then you have reliability testing. So when the system is consistent, not today now, you're logging in. I'm sure you've been using your Revolut app. It's still been the same thing that you've been, the same service, right? So not today that you log in, tomorrow is another story. Like in the case of some of our Nigerian banks. So in the case where you log in today, you're fine. The next day is another issue. So you want to know if the system is stable, right? Is reliable, is consistent. That's reliability testing. Then security testing, of course, cyber security and all that, where people can just hack system, hack and hijack everything. So you want to know, okay, I think for that test, you talk about vulnerability and penetration tests, but that's deeper, actually, will not go advanced. So you're trying to know if your system is secure enough, right? Because if you are doing an application that has to do with money, a fintech application, or a bank application, or an application that has to do with people's information and all that, you need to be careful. You need to carry out a security test to ensure that that system is secure enough, right? I think there was a certain time that was on Netflix, I think. Even recently, where we heard that they hacked GTB and all that stuff, where there was an application that was built for that thing is very weird. I'm sorry, but I just need to give that scenario. It's very weird and not nice. So where an application was built, right, for people that want to cheat. So they built an application for people that want to cheat. So after they built that application, of course, users are anonymous. So you're coming with an anonymous name and all that. It was on Netflix. And the guy was going around doing campaign. He gave the software team what he wanted and they built the application. And then if you're logging in or signing up, you're using anonymous name, anonymous email and all that stuff. You can give your details here, but you'll be anonymous in the app. And before you know it, hackers hacked that system and then started releasing people's names, right? It was just everywhere on the internet. And then people's marriages started breaking because they're like, oh, what happened and all that stuff. So you can see they now have to involve cybersecurity experts to actually come and look into the issue so that that security breach can be resolved. So it is important, right, that we actually carry out security tests because, like I said, people's personal details, and if you're dealing with money that is very sensitive, because hackers can just come now and just push out $4 million, push out this, and it will be at the detriment of the organization. So security testing cannot be overemphasized. Then you have maintainability testing. So it's basically how easy is the app? How can it be maintained? So also, is this app flexible to changes? I'm sure from the WhatsApp we were using back in 2012, it's not the same WhatsApp we're using now. You can see changes has occurred. So there's actually room for improvement, continuous improvement, bringing ISO, sorry. So there's room for continuous improvements. So in some time, you have to make your app in such a way where it's flexible. So in the case where some needs are changing or some things are changing, so your app will be in such a way where it can accommodate changes. I'm sure some of our app will see you will in your Play Store, in your Google or your App Store, your Apple Store, you see where you have update your app or something because there are changes happening in the app. So you want to know that your app is able to accommodate changes. Then you have portability testing where you're testing app against different environments, right? So basically different would I say operating system or environment to know it that is actually suitable. Do we have any questions before we proceed, please?
No, I don't.
Sorry, the portability testing. What do you mean by testing app against different environment? You mean different locations, or what does that mean?
Okay, I wouldn't put it at location actually. So I will put it as how do I put it now? So can you work in in an Apple phone? Can you also work in an Android phone? Right. And then even Android phones that have various operating system. Also,
All right.
iPhones have various operating systems. So that's what you're actually checking.
Oh, all right, all right, all right. Thank you.
All right. So for non-functional testing, right? According to the shift left rule, like I said, is always very important. I cannot I need to reiterate this fact over and over again that testing should start early in the software life cycle, right? So, like I said, your testing starts from your documentation review. So it needs to start early. So basically, many non-functional tests are derived from functional tests as they use the same functional tests. You know, when you're testing the functionalities, right, of the various systems, so you can still use that same test case actually to run your non-functional testing, right? So the late discovery of non-functional defects can pose a serious threat to the success of your project. Imagine you did not test the security of your platform and you're deploying it and it's going live. And then maybe in the month, your app is successful and then you're handling money. Cyber thieves or cyber hackers will come and now hack your system and cripple the system and take money out when you did not carry out security testing. Or you're trying to test if you did not test if your app or web your web application is compatible in Safari, Google Chrome. Is when you're using it in Microsoft Edge, the thing is already failing, showing error or 504 error found. So imagine all those tests is actually costly, right? All those defects, sorry, is costly. It's always advisable that you carry out all those tests because you cannot be, the reason you're testing is actually to show the presence of defects, right? So you need to actually, even though, right, it can cost you, but it's preferable that you actually do all those things rather than the adverse consequence you get at the later end when you do not carry out those tests. So imagine usability now. Your people in like laymen or people that did not go to school cannot use your app. They need to be learned to use your app. Meanwhile, your reach is actually to those people that did not go to school. So all those things needs to be actually looked at and checked. So you can see the example, like I stated here, security, very important. It cannot be overemphasized because now with the rate of cyber thieves or hackers, it has involved. So rather than we having armed robbers carrying gun, now they hack you online, easier, faster, web money, and then you get paid. So you need to carry out these tests to ensure you can still use your functional test case to carry out this non-functional testing. You're basically just looking at, okay, well, the performance of the system, the compatibility, the maintainability, the usability of the system. So you need to check all this. Do we have any questions before we move over to black box? If you're saying anything, you're muted, please.
Oh, no, for me.
No, go ahead, please.
All right. It's quite understandable, right?
Yes.
All right. So the next one is black box testing, sorry. So basically, you might not have the internal knowledge or you might not have the implementation details. Your focus is just validating the functionality based on the user specification. So in the documentation provided by the business analyst, it has been projected or it has been captured that the user wants the application in a manner. Like this Revolut app now that is going to be our case study. It was built to to some specifications, according to some specification. So in black box testing, you're just testing based on specification, the functionalities based on specification. For example, the product owner says, for my Revolut app, I want to be able to add people so I can have Revolut friend or bank number, and then you also add the source code and all that. So you're testing based on that specification. You don't need to have the whole knowledge of how the app works or anything. No, you're not concerned about that. Your concern is to test the application based on the specification provided by the product owner. So that's all black box testing is about. As you can see, my
So
dad.
for the black box test, you don't go out of the specification.
You're
It's
not
just
going
going
out
to
of the
be.
specification, no. So you can see tests from documentation external to the test objects. So all those documentation we have where the user has already specified what he or she wants. The specifications are there. So the inputs, outputs. So you don't have any business going further or knowing too much. You're just testing based on specification. Do we have any questions, please?
Do you go beyond specification in other testing?
Yeah, you can actually. You can. But for black box, it's strictly on specification.
Why would you go beyond the specification given you by the owner in other testing?
Well, for black box, like I said, is majorly on specification. That's as the name implies. For other ones now, right? So like for performance, the user would not have specified that, oh, this is what I want how many users to go. That's for non-functional. For another example, security, the user would not have gone that far to say, oh, he wants his application to be to be secure, sorry. Then the user would not have said, oh, he wants his application to be this and that. But this one now, the black box testing is based on specification. Maybe like I said, the features of the app. That's the specification of the app.
But if the app has all the specifications, like all the features, so you have no other option but to test it now.
Sorry?
If the app that you are testing has all the features like the performance, the scalability, maintainability, you just have to test it, right? In black box testing.
No, you're actually getting this mixed up now. So that example I gave you, that's for non-functional. So the performance, maintainability, and all that are types of non-functional testing.
Yes.
For black box, it has to do with the specifications on the documentation. So the specifications has to do with the features of the app. Performance is not a feature of the app. Is that you can add somebody. I can add somebody and pay you. I can add you and pay and send you money. You can add me and send me money. That's the feature of the app.
Okay.
Any other question? Any other question, please, before we proceed? Once it's 2, we have about 2 more hours to go. So I think we're moving on a good pace today. So we can just take 5 minutes break and just stretch our legs, then come back. So do we have any questions before I move, please?
No, not for me.
All right, so for white box testing, I'll take us back to when we discussed about unit testing. So this particular one has to do with the code. As you can see from my diagram here, you have the magnifying glass, and then you're looking at at what makes up the application. You're trying to look at what is the characteristics or the components, right, of that application. So this one is a structure-based, right? And it has to do from the implementation or internal structure. So it has to do with the internal structure. Black box testing now will have to do with the features. So like when you've already developed, that's the developers have developed, they've pushed it. So you're seeing the output of what they've done. But white box testing has to do with that's the internal structure. So it has to do with the code, the workflows, and also the data flow, right? So the main objective of the white box testing is to cover the underlying structure by the test to the acceptable level. Basically, white box testing, right? If you want to look at the test level, that's the unit testing. That's where unit testing comes in, where developers actually conduct this testing to know the internal structure of the code, right? So for QA people that are inclined with software development, so they can go ahead to carry out these tests. So you're basically looking at the internal perspective of the system. You're looking at the API flows, right? So you can look at API flows. API has to do with, that's the application process interface, it has to do with the, what will I call it now? The behind the scenes. So the login button, there's a code that is behind the scenes that triggers that login button, that when you click it, it actually works. So white box testing just has to do with the internal perspective of the system.
So as a manual tester, like we can't carry out this white box testing, right?
Developers or QA people that know how to code.
All right.
Yeah.
Being automation testing.
Yeah. So like I said, it can be applied at the unit integration system and all that. So basically, they'll just be testing the behind the scenes. So it's not what's the output, you're testing the internal structure of the code that is bringing out the outputs that you're now seeing. Like the Revolut app now, there are codes behind it. So they are testing that code behind it. So they'll be testing from when I can go to add friend, okay, when I add that bank name or bank number and all that stuff. So the code behind it, that's what they are testing.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so please, we can just take 5 minutes break because we're going to cover a whole lot today, right? I think maybe we might be getting to 300 or so in the slide because we're going at a good pace today. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
See you in 5 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes gone.
I'm back. Sorry for that.
You're welcome.
I'm back. Thank you. Hope we enjoyed our break. All right. Thank you, everyone. So before we went on break, we're looking at the white box testing, and we saw that white box testing has to do with testing the internal perspective of the application. So you're just looking at the internal structure of the application. All right. So the truth is that there are various types of testing, but we've seen the 4 types: functional, non-functional, black and white box tests. So yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So in summary of the 4 types of testing,
Yeah.
the functional testing has to do with testing of the modules to check the defects of each module, right? Yeah. The non-functional testing has to do with the behavior of the system.
Yeah.
Then black box testing has to do with the specification.
Based on what the
strictly on the specification from the owner, from the app owner.
Yeah.
Then white box testing has to do with on the underlying structure.
Underlying structure. Thank you for that word. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you. So we move further down. So there are still some testing. I don't know if I can call them types, but still some types of testing. We have confirmation and regression testing. So in software development, like I said, your application should not be built in a way where it's rigid. It's not flexible. The truth is that in software development, you always enhance the component. Like I said, the WhatsApp we were using when it came out then in Nigeria in 2012, but I'm sure in other countries it came out earlier. But in Nigeria, it was 2012, it was introduced to us. The WhatsApp we're using then is not the same WhatsApp you're using now. So some modifications have been done where you're able to even share your screen. You can do video calls. You can do voice calls and all that. So all those little enhancement and all those introduction of features, right? Because the system was not built in a way that it was rigid. It was built in a way where it can accommodate changes. Because the truth is that you keep on adding new features or removing some features that you think it's not needed anymore as the world or time actually progresses, right? So in the case where you add all those, you have all those additions, or in the case where you're now removing some defects, right? Even when the application has gone live, that's where we have some this type of testing to address all that. So we have confirmation testing. So for confirmation testing, is a test that has to do with confirming if a previous defect or bug has been successfully fixed. Like I said, you do not take the words of a developer. You have to go and see it for yourself. You have to go and test the application that this bug that you have raised, even though the developer gives you word of mouth that, oh, I have fixed it, you have to go and test it to know and ensure that the developer has actually fixed this defect. So that type of test is actually called the confirmation or retesting, right? So you're actually trying to confirm that that defect that has been raised is now successfully fixed. So you can now close it out on the defect log that you have already started. So basically, you can confirm or retest the fix by executing all test cases that previously have failed, right? Or you can do that by adding new tests to actually cover any changes that were needed to fix the defect or not. I would like to put, what's the word now called? I'm trying to get the word. The word will come. All right. So please note that in the part where time or money is short when fixing defects, right? Because defects can be costly, that's the truth, especially when your application has gone live. Imagine having major defects and you're now fixing it actually when the application has gone live. It can be expensive, right? It can be expensive. So please note that confirmation tests should be restricted to simply exercising the steps that should reproduce the failure caused by the defect. So defect is different from failure. Are we there?
Defect is different from failure.
Yes. So failure is as a result of the defects.
Exactly.
So defect can be said as the probably like a bug or what, but the failure now of the application can be as a result of that bug or defect that has been cited.
Defect is the root cause.
So defect is the root cause, yes. So failure now, it's now the aftermath of the defect.
Yeah, the surface. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's as a result of the defect that led to the failure, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
You understand? Probably, for example, if a brake is not properly fixed, then there will be a failure while driving.
Exactly. So there'll be a failure and then also accident straight up.
Accident.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing for your application now. So maybe in the point in time let me use the Revolut because that's our case study for today. So the Revolut app now, right? So you're seeing that what example can I use now? Okay, so you're saying that when you're wanting to send money, rather than confirming the bank details, right?
It's
It
sent
doesn't take
directly.
you to confirm the bank details. It just pays directly.
Yeah.
So that means as it pays directly like that, so that means probably like when you have several people you want to pay, or when you have several people you want to pay, it doesn't, that means you can
Pay the wrong person.
pay the wrong person. Exactly. Thank you. So you can send money to the wrong person. And then the person you intend to send money to is calling you that I have not received. And you say, but I sent it now. The bank details you provide, the bank details was not actually confirmed.
Yeah, it didn't take you to the review page.
Exactly. But there's no review page at all.
No review page, yeah. So in summary, just like in one or two words, so how can you summarize regression testing?
Okay, no.
Because you are not done
I've
yet,
not
right?
explained regression. I just finished confirmation.
Okay.
Yeah. So confirmation is just basically confirming that the defect that has been raised has been successfully fixed in order to avoid failures in the application.
Okay.
So that's the summary of it.
So I was thinking like the big subject here, say that regression testing. I thought
So there are two. Let me go back to the slide. Confirmation testing and regression
testing. Okay. So why do we not have confirmation?
So confirmation is different from regression.
Of course, it's different. Okay.
Like I said, confirmation is just you confirming that, okay, the defect that was raised has been successfully fixed by the developers. So regression now is now confirming that defect that you are checking that has been successfully fixed. You're now confirming that there is no adverse consequences caused by that change. Do you understand?
No, come again.
All right. So remember I said a defect, right, has been fixed by the developer. You go in to check. So you're now checking that apart from it working, that the new fix that this developer has done, it has not scattered another thing entirely, because that's usually the case.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
I'll take it again. You're confirming that, okay, my login button is working. I mean, it wasn't working before, but developer has come and say, okay, go and test it. It's working now. You go to the app. I go to my Revolut. I'm able to log in. But regression, I'm now testing that there is no other consequences caused by that fix he has done. That as I'm going to my login now, payment is no more working.
Okay.
Sign up, I mean, not even sign up, self. What is it called now? Search is no more working. I cannot search. So these are the underlying issues, actually. I'll take this now. A fix or a change could have caused some issues around that same component where the change was made. So you're now testing to see that, okay, this fix that has been done, it's not affecting, right, other components or models in that system. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it is said that conducting an impact analysis is very important, right? So when you're raising your defect logs, you look at the ones that are business critical. You see the ones that are critical, the ones that are medium, the ones that are low. You go in that priority so that attention will be given to the ones that are business critical, right? So, sorry, I'll take this again. So, like I said, attention will be given to the ones that are business critical because it will show the extent of regression that is required, because you're basically going to be testing other systems. You're not going to be saying, okay, I've tested this system. There's a new fix, there's a new change. You need to test to ensure that this actually still works. Because sometimes some developers, they would have fixed something, but they've pressed one other thing now, or they've scattered the entire, they scattered one code. One code is now missing. And then it has now caused the defect of another component and all that, causing the failure of the application. So you actually need to check. So you can never, testing is inexhaustible. I'll use that word. You cannot exhaust testing. You test and test and test to ensure that there is continuous working of that application. All right, do we have any questions on this regression testing?
Yeah.
All right, please go ahead.
After you have you already confirmed that you confirmed the applications of different interface, everything is working. That's confirmation. Login is working, the next page is working, delete is working, everything is working, it's confirmed. Now you now go to regression. Regression is going back again to check if all these things is actually fixed, is okay. So after you now do that regression, you see that everything is okay. Are you going to confirm again?
No. So you've already done the confirmation that, confirmation has to do with that defect. When you were testing the application as a start off, you notice some defects. You raise it to the developer in your defects reports. Login is not working. I cannot log in. And then the developer goes to now ensure that login is working. So confirmation test is confirming that login is working.
It's working, okay.
Regression test is now saying that, okay, as the login is working, hope as the login is working, you're still able to add money. You're still able to send money.
Yeah.
You're still able to do forgot password.
Not affect any other part.
So
It's
basically,
not affecting any other part,
yeah.
exactly.
So basically, before you could do a regression test, something might have gone wrong
Exactly.
before you carry out regression test.
Yeah.
So something must have gone wrong before you carry out regression test.
Because most of the time, like I said, testing is showing the presence of defects. No matter how you test, you can never say there's no defects. There's actually defects. But as they fix, you have to test. You cannot say because you tested before is working, it might not work tomorrow. So you need to know that, okay, as they fix, it is still working. It's not affecting any system or any component or any model or any functionality.
I'm listening to the question of Akim. He's asking that, I know he was saying, confirming that there must be a failure of something must go wrong
And
before
that's
you
what
go
I'm
for
saying.
regression
Yeah,
test.
some definitely,
What
like
is
I
that?
said, your testing,
But
that's what
why
testing is all about.
why
You're
would something
testing
go
to
wrong
know
first before you test? Or you
because
have to, okay, is it you have to check it first and see that, okay, the thing has gone wrong, or
exactly, like that's what your job is. You're testing to know if there are any defects in the application. Because if an application, as like I said, as you're doing
because I
the
was thinking you can't wait for something to go wrong before you test. You have to test.
you're testing, you're in
Regression, like for regression testing, you have to, like, something must have gone wrong in order for you to perform this, if I understand what she was saying.
okay, I'll take it again. So I'm saying for regression testing, right? Something might not have gone wrong, but you're testing to ensure that the fix that has been made or the correction that has been made has not affected the entire part.
Exactly. Now you are talking.
For
Now you are talking.
confirmation, you have raised a defect, you have raised something has gone wrong. So you're
Okay, for
not testing to
confirmation.
confirm that the defect or the fix that has been done by the developer is working. That means he has sorted it out. He has
Well,
corrected it.
Exactly.
For
Good.
regression, you're now testing that, okay, oh, this fix that has been done, has it affected some other places?
Other places.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Now you go.
All right. For regression testing, you're retesting all, right? And then you know where I said you have to prioritize your test case. So basically you'll be focused on business criticals, right? So because this type of test might be exhausting. Imagine testing the entire application again. So you might just look at the business critical ones. Okay, oh, for the login that was sorted out, or am I able to still make payments? Am I still able to do like what I'm needed to do and all that? So that's what you've been focused on before you now go to the minor ones, right? So for regression testing, when you're automating a test, it must start very early in the project. The automation should be probably integrated to your CI/CD. So this is more advanced. And then there's a video link on the slide for you to watch for further explanation.
Did you see talk to, sorry, did you talk to Manny about
Yeah, so he said what will be shared would be the manual. Well, the manual, the ISQTB manual and also the other handouts we have. The slide was actually created for them. So what I can do is that the important things that you need to note, maybe I can compile and send to everyone.
Okay.
That's like the links and all that. So I can just compile and send to them. And send to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
thank you.
Welcome. All right. So we've already discussed, I don't know if we discussed maintenance testing, right? So, but maintenance testing, I'm sure, I don't know, I think Madam Funke handled maintenance testing when she started in her first class or something. So
Yeah.
maintenance testing, yeah. Maintenance testing has to do with post-release software testing. So this is when the application has gone live, right? So you're trying to see if there are bugs, okay. As is live now, are people still reporting it? Of course, a software cannot be defect-free. It's just reducing defect to the barest minimum, right? So in the place where it's now live, users are using it. Of course, there are some bugs or issues that will come up. So you're just testing, right, to know those bugs, to improve performance of the application, and then the adaptive to changes in the environment, right? So this testing has to do with when the application has gone live. It's no more in the test environment. It's now in the deployment phase. It's now live. You're seeing it on your Google Store. You're seeing it on your Apple Store. You're downloading it and using it. right? So all those bugs and all that. So it's called, the resolution of all that, or the testing of all those defect or bugs, is called maintenance testing, right? So for a change to be made when the application is actually live, impact analysis has to be done. This is based on priority, right? So you're looking at, okay, this change I want to make now, how critical is it? Is it important that I make this change? Is it essential that I make this change? So you'll be looking at all that. If there are some changes that you actually don't need to make, so there's no need to go ahead and know. So that's what maintenance testing has to do, right? So it can be corrective, adaptive to changes in the environment, improve performance and maintainability. This testing is done when your application is live. It's on your Apple Store, it's on your Google Store. Play Store, sorry. So that's what maintenance testing is all about. Do we have any questions on maintenance testing before we go ahead, please?
So if it's live already, why do you still have work? It hasn't been handed over yet.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry, let me answer Mr. Jeremiah's question. So in the points where it has gone live, so sometimes when it has gone live, right, the application is actually handed over to the product owner's team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it happens sometimes actually that is handed over to the product owner's team. So in that his team, he would also have, developers would also be working with him, or depending if he has a contract, right?
With them, okay.
Yeah.
They do the maintenance.
Of course, yeah. Sometimes some SLA that's service level agreement, is that, okay, after deployment, you would actually support us for a month or two.
Exactly.
In that month or two of support, the QA is still with them testing before it's now fully handed over to the team. So the team now can probably recruit their own team that would continue, because this is a continuous process.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's say now that me and you now, we are in one particular company. We just finished one project, and the project has gone live. Then there is a contract that also say that we have to be with them to monitor it like 1 or 2, 3 months.
Yeah.
Understand? Okay. So that means there is not much work to do. It's just to check the performance, improve the performance, and all of that.
Yeah, check. But the truth is that an application cannot be defect. It's possible that when you maybe as you were testing your test environment, the defect has been reduced to probably should I say 50% or 60%. But when you went live now, some new issues are arising. It's in a different environment.
Yeah,
So
yes,
users are using it, they are giving their own feedback and all that. And you're seeing it.
okay.
Yeah. So you'll not be testing these issues or is in live. It's live already and all that.
Okay.
So you're not ready to the developers to fix.
Okay. So in some cases, can they come back to us that we didn't do our job well? That is why this is coming out.
Yeah, they can. That's why they said you should always test early in software, because if you have tested early, you have reduced some things that will be coming out now.
Okay.
The things that will be coming out now may majorly be probably, like, let me say, minimal things. But in the case where you're now saying business critical mistakes, so that means due diligence was not done in the initial stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means there's a risk. There are some situations that testers might put themselves at risk of legal problem.
Yeah. So it's that's why you have the contractual or regulatory testing, where you're actually testing based on requirements and all. So that is why it is said that QA should be brought, or testers should be brought early in the software test life cycle. And after that, due diligence is actually done. the tester actually knows his or her onions, knows what he or she is doing before he now says that the application is ready to go live, and then it goes live. Of course, minimal issues will actually arise because you're moving to another environment, a live environment, right? So, but in order to avoid business critical defects, it's
Yes.
advisable that you test early in the software development life cycle.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So maintenance testing, it will provide feedback on how well the latest release is working real life. So this is, it's live, real life now. It's no more in the test environment where we're doing tumbo. So this one is live. People are using it. So they are giving you feedback. They are giving your application review. So it helps developers find any new bugs that may have been introduced by the corrective and emergency changes in development. Like I said, right? So the application is now transferred from the testing environment to the live environment. So it's possible some new bugs might be found, right? Then also it ensures that the new release doesn't break functionality with other parts of the system. So it's possible that when you are deploying to the live environment, right? So it might break the functionalities of your system. So that's why you're carrying out your maintenance testing. So many times this testing is performed at no cost to clients who contract for post-release updates or maintenance support from software vendors. Remember, you know where you asked that question. So I'm saying it depends on the SLA that was signed. So it's possible like where the company, their money reaches that, okay, as soon as you finish the application, but as soon as it goes live, carry your kaya and go. We don't need support. But some people, they'll say, oh, we need support. Please help us first 2 months and hold our hands. Then depending on whatever the client has agreed with the team. So depending. Do we have any questions so far? If we're speaking, you're muted.
So me, I don't have anything.
I don't have.
All right, thanks. Okay. I'll go to the scope of maintenance testing. So you don't go over the board. So you would have to look at the degree of the risks of the change. So the change now, right, that this bug has caused, what is the risk? Then you also look at the size of the existing system. How large is it? How small the application is. Then you look at the size of the change. So it's possible that the defect has introduced a change. So you want to know, okay, what is the amount of this change that this defect has actually caused to this application? So that's what the scope of the maintenance testing is all about. But basically, what you'll be measured on is the risks of the change. So like I said, right, so in the new bugs that you're finding, you want to know if it's business critical to the application, something that can be managed effectively, right? So that's what scope of maintenance testing is all about, actually. All right, so what are the triggers? When do you conduct maintenance testing? First thing is modification. You have planned enhancements, corrective changes, or hot fixes. Hot fixes has to do when you're moving from one operational environment to another platform, right? So basically, where you're testing from a test environment, you're now moving into a live environment, right? So it requires tests associated with the new environment. Also, if you're moving an application from an operating system of does anybody use Android phone here?
Yes.
All right. What's the latest OS now?
I don't know. I have Android phone, but I don't know.
Okay. So I think the last Android phone, I don't know, last Android, maybe like it was Windows, no, not Windows, sorry. The OS has something to do with the OS was either 10 or was it not 10? Sorry, what am I saying? But the OS should be like advanced then, yeah. So you want to know that, okay, for the advanced OS, right? Before you even get to the advanced OS, probably the application, or let me use a mobile application now. The mobile application was on a phone, and let me even use phone set. Was on a phone, maybe a Tecno, a Samsung phone of a lower operating system. But now you're now migrating that mobile application to an OS that is now higher. So you want to know that, okay, as you're releasing the version, it's still able to work in that advanced environment, right? Even though there are bugs, right? You're now still conducting tests based on that. Another example can be for what's it called, using Apple phones too. So I think the highest OS now should be like either, I don't know if it's 17 or 18, I can't remember. So you want to know that, okay, this application is still working as it was working in the other environment that you had. So that's basically upgrades or migration. Then retirement. There's a point in time where an application will reach the end of its life. When a system is retired, it will require testing to actually archive its data. So triggers for maintenance testing has to do with modification, upgrades or migration, and also retirement. Please, who can name applications that you know that was existing before, but you don't think is existing now?
To go.
Thank you. Which other application? Which other application can we think about? There are some applications I'm even trying to think too, apart from
Java
Tugo.
phones.
Sorry?
Java phones.
Will Java phones be an application? So basically applications actually, but Tugo is something we can use as an example. Sorry, someone mentioned something. Sorry, did someone mention an application already?
No, I was asking if you're talking about a phone application or something.
Yeah, so basically an application, just like Tugo, she mentioned Tugo. So Tugo is an application.
What's it called? It's Yahoo Messenger.
But I think your messenger still works.
Does it?
Yeah, I think so. If I'm not mistaken. I don't know.
It doesn't. I don't think it still exists.
Is it?
And this other one, there's this other one there with Yahoo Messenger. I've forgotten the name.
All right, thank you. So basically what I'm saying is that those particular applications, they've been retired. So they've reached their life cycle. They are now redundant because of how technology has advanced. So to go now has been replaced with WhatsApp, there's Instagram, there's Twitter, right? All those messengers and all that stuff. So all those things have actually crippled to go. Even BlackBerry what's that thing now called? BBP, BB or whatever, where you're messaging on BlackBerry chats and all that stuff. So all those are outdated, right? So there's actually a test that is carried out on those systems that have actually retired. to archive data. Because the truth is that most of our applications, right, they are actually made up of data. So for every sign up, for every people using the app, they need to sign up with their details and all. So you have plenty data on that application. So you're basically testing now to archive data, right? So basically archiving all those data that you have. So you need to carry out the tests. Do we understand? I'll use an example now, probably hardware. So we have files, like all those government offices that keep files. So there are some files that have gone outdated and then they archive them. So they probably, even in your software now, you have some files that you don't think you need. You actually archive them or you put them in recycle bin or delete them forever. So I'm saying now for applications that have been redundant or have gone obsolete or extinct, a test has to be done to ensure that those data is actually archived. You don't want other people actually spooling or hacking into data, no, because the redundant application is not working. So you need to carry out a test that would ensure data archival. So that's just the explanation. So I'll go over it again. What are the triggers for maintenance testing? You have modifications, you have upgrades or migrations, you also have retirements. Do we have any question at this point?
So, like the two you talk about now, has it been archived?
Yes, it should have been. This to-go has been extinct how many years now?
Okay.
So it has been because you have lots of people's data on that app now. So it needs to be archived. Let me use an example now. If you don't want to archive all those files like hardware, you shred them, don't you? You discard those papers. Like I use an example now. Yeah, exactly. When you're going through you're using your laptop, some files you don't need, you delete them, you put them in recycle bin and delete them. So same thing now, this testing that you do to ensure data archival. So you're basically just getting rid of obsolete applications and testing to ensure that the data there has been archived properly. Sorry, that's the word. All right, do we have any questions, please?
So, sorry, Ada. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, so I heard them talking about you talking about you want to collect some things for them to be able to read, isn't it?
Oh, yes, sir. There are
Okay,
some
so
links on the
yeah, so
slide.
I've sent a document to the Zoom chat so they can download it. That is everything they need to know about testing is in that document. It's from ISTQB. Can you guys see the document I've just uploaded in the chat?
Yes.
Okay. So
Thank you.
everything Ada has been teaching and everything is going to still teach, you will find it in that document. Okay. So for instance, you may want to go and look up all the things that have been covered so far. So that is the only document will be given to you for the purpose of this test, software testing bootcamp. It contains everything you need to know, everything has been taught, and everything that will still be taught. And when Ada was talking about maintenance testing, you guys were were very quiet. Do you guys understand it, or do you have any questions?
I later understood it. I didn't understand it at first.
Okay, so there's nothing complicating about maintenance testing. Okay, so basically, maintenance testing is usually done for a software that has been deployed, that has gone live. So let's use a mobile application for example. So if a mobile application has been developed, tested, and has been deployed into production environment, any form of testing that you will be doing from that time and from that time going forward is what we call maintenance testing. So for instance, if you build an e-commerce website, okay, and the e-commerce website has only one payment type. Let's say you could only pay through PayPal, right? So for the application that has gone live, the only payment type, okay, in that application, that e-commerce application is PayPal. So let's say in the future, the business comes back to say they want us to add a Klarna payment type, okay? So that would, okay, that would be considered as an enhancement or an additional feature to an application that has gone live. Okay, so once that functionality is added, that Klarna payment functionality is added, okay, what you're not doing is maintenance testing to ensure that the new functionality that's been added is working as expected.
Oh,
Is it clear now?
yes.
Okay, so maintenance testing, what you need to have at the back of your mind is that maintenance testing is done for an application that's gone live. Okay, when an update is done to that application, you have to test. When there's a new feature added to that application, you have to test. So that is what we call maintenance testing. Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I know Ada did justice to that. I just wanted to add another dimension because I saw that you guys were very quiet. All right, I'll allow her to carry on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Mani. Thank you. All right, so can we still see my screen, please?
Yes.
All right. So we can see, we had looked at the various types of testing. We saw white box, we saw black box, we saw functional, we saw non-functional, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we talked about black box testing about the functionalities of the application, while white box is testing about the internal structure of the application, right? So there's something called dynamic testing. So dynamic testing, this is where you're now executing the code. So I'll take it again now. Dynamic testing is a software testing method which is used to check defects in software applications by executing the code. The primary goal of a dynamic testing is to evaluate software functionality under dynamic condition. So the umbrella behind this test type, because this is just repetitive now, is dynamic testing. So dynamic testing is now the umbrella, I'll say is the grandfather, which has to do with the white box testing, the black box testing, then under the black box where you have the functional and non-functional. So dynamic testing is actually the umbrella. That's why I said you should look at my screen so you can see the diagram. So basically, you're now with, as the name implies, dynamic is when you've executed the code. You're now checking to know if there are defects, right? When you executed the code. For example, you have your test case. We already explained what test cases are. This is where you have your test scenarios and test scenarios based on the documentation that has been provided, right? So you're trying to test as as a user, I want to log in or I want to sign up. Your test case says you need a valid, you need a valid credential, which has to do with a valid email a valid email address. And also you need to probably create your password. Then you're not able to sign up after you filled in your details. So the art of running that is actually called dynamic testing, because you're already executing the code, right? That has been, let me say, you're executing the behind the scenes of that particular scenario. Do we have any questions before I proceed?
So sorry, basically all you do from start of a project to end is basically dynamic testing, because that entails
no, but from start, the first type of testing is static testing, where you're just reviewing documentation. When you've now, after reviewing documentation, the period when you're now doing test case and you're not going to the test environment to check login, sign up, and all that functionalities, you've now moved to dynamic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Statics deals with only documentation.
Documentation review, yeah.
Yeah. So dynamic.
Because with the word static, you're not running anything, you're not executing anything.
Yeah.
Reviewing, you're just looking at the documentation.
Reviewing document. Okay.
But dynamic now has now progressed. You're now running. You're now checking. You're checking the codes, checking both the internal, the external, checking functionalities, checking behavior. So that is dynamic. So that's why I said it's not the umbrella of the white box testing, the black box testing, and all the testing we've been looking at. So that's why it can be seen here that it can be done both manually or automated way. So this is the umbrella behind the white box testing, the black box, functional, non-functional, and all the whole types of testing we'll be looking at since we started. All right, do we have more questions, please? Do we have any more questions, please? Or do I proceed?
Yeah, proceed.
All right, it's my cue to proceed, actually. All right, so his login I've been using, and his login they use exact condition I used is what they are using as example. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Yeah. So assume we are testing. I don't know why I like login a lot. That's a functionality. Because if you're able to log in, you're able to access any application, right? So for example, now we are testing a login functionality of a Gmail application. To do this first, we need to create Gmail account. So you cannot log in if you're not a user already. Is that true?
Yes.
You need to be a user before you log in. That means you would have signed up, and then you would have you now be able to have either a Gmail account or you're now a user of that application. So as this example imply, for a Gmail application, you need to create Gmail accounts. So that means using username and password. So for setting up username and password, it means that your username might be 6 characters long, where they'll say, okay, provide a name that is 6 characters long. Then for password, where they'll say, oh, provide password that is 8 characters long, right? Maybe they will now give some conditions that it must have a capital letter.
Uppercase and lowercase.
Yeah, it must have all those, it must have a special character and all that. So let's say that we have done all this. We now have a valid username and password. We are now able to test the login functionality of the Gmail account, if you all agree with me.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. So this we're already executing already, but in the point of documentation review is static, because you're not executing any code, you're not executing anything, you're not running any tests. I mean, you're not running any anything that has to do with code or execution. So you're just static, you're just reviewing documentation. But dynamic, right? You're basically trying to test the execution right of the code. All right, do we have any questions before I move ahead?
I don't have.
Mr. Jeremiah, Mr. Kim, do we have any more questions, please?
Not at all. Not at all.
All right, so please, is it quite understandable?
Yeah.
So you can see now we are now in static testing. So it says these are some work products that we can conduct static testing on our requirement specification documents, the source code, the test plan, test cases, products backlog item, project documentation, contract. So all this has to do with review. You're reviewing them. You're not executing anything. So you're just reviewing. So what this means is that any work product that can be read and understood can be the subject of a review or static testing. In static testing, you're basically conducting reviews. You're ensuring that it is readable and it is understandable, right? So work products that are not appropriate for static testing include those that are difficult to interpret by human beings and should not be analyzed by tools. So that would be, so there are some things, right? Some people cannot comprehend, right? So you would have to probably use some tools to actually understand them better. But static testing is all about documentation review. Let me put it like that. Let me summarize it like that. So you're just, for example, your user documentation that has the specifications, that has a user story, that has the details of what the application should be, right? Which is advised that every tester, that is where your testing starts from. It starts from static testing because you are reviewing your documentations, right? So you're reviewing the project plans, you're reviewing your test plan, you're reviewing your test case, right? And also the requirement specification documentation. So this is where your test actually starts from before it now progresses to dynamic testing. So that is all static testing is all about. Do we have any questions or is this understandable?
The test plan, are we going to be the one to prepare the test plan, or it's going to be done by the BA?
No, we are. Test plan is, remember we gave the
The
assignment.
manager, right?
Yeah, it's usually the QA manager, but if you're now on your own, you'll be the one to come up with it now.
Okay.
Test plan and test cases.
Yeah. For big organizations that have test managers, the test plan will be done by the QA manager, while the test cases will be done by you, tester. But in the place where it's a one-man team, you be the one to do the test plan and also the test case. Do you understand?
Okay.
But,
Go on. Okay.
but we don't have the idea of test cases. Like we've not written a test cases before.
Oh, no, we've not gotten there yet. So
We'll get there now.
you get there. It's a journey.
Yeah, our very first class, I think Ms. Folk mentioned test strategy. What is that? Is there any drafted cases like that? Test strategy.
So the test strategy is in the test plan. Remember, I gave you the assignment of doing a test plan, and then we discussed about test plan. So in the test plan, the test strategy, that's the strategy behind the test, how you want to conduct your test is already documented.
Oh yeah, it was it's in the test plan actually.
Exactly.
I thought it was separate.
No, it's not a separate document.
Okay then, no worries.
All right, any more questions before we proceed, please?
can go ahead.
All right.
We can hear you. You're muted.
Oh, apologies for that. All right. So we've all confirmed that when conducting static tests, the software under test does not need to be executed. For your project documentation, sorry for that noise. The project documentation, it doesn't need to be executed, right? So your documentation review, you're just reviewing, you're just making sure that it's understandable. You understand the requirements, specification documentation, you understand the test plan, the test cases. So basically no execution is actually done there, right? So it includes, the test objective includes improving quality, detecting defect, and also assessing characteristics like readability, completeness, correctness, testability, and also consistency, right? So testing is basically about verification and validation. So an example is that static testing will help confirm that user stories are complete and understandable, and it includes testable acceptance criteria. So remember when I said when you have the user stories or you have the requirement specification documentation, right? You're ensuring that you understand it. Like I said, sometimes it takes 2 weeks for you to understand. Depending, it takes 1 week for you to understand. So what static testing is ensuring that you actually understand this documentation, and they are also complete. And then they also have the testable acceptance criteria, because user stories actually has to have acceptance criteria, right? So those are the specifications that have been identified by the product owner. Then testers need to ask the right questions. Remember I said one of the soft skills of a tester is that you know how to communicate. You need to ask the right questions. Understand know how to ask the right questions. So it's possible that everything in that document might not be clear to you. So reach out for meetings so that you can have a meeting with the product owner and then the BA, and then it can be established so that you can understand the user stories and every documentation provided. So there are some user stories that can be very ambiguous, that can be vague. So it has not been broken down, it has not been simplified. So like I said, you need to ask the right questions. You need to ask them to provide clarity, because assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. You can never assume in this kind of business because you're actually developing an application. So rather than you saying, oh, I assume maybe they are talking about this, no. Clear that assumption, reach out, engage them in questions, because this is where your testing is actually starting from the documentation review phase. So static analysis or static tests can identify problems before dynamic testing, and it requires less effort. You're not executing anything at this stage. You're not using some tools to conduct tests, no. Instead, you're just reviewing documentation. So it's possible that you would have even identified some defect or bugs in the phase of static testing. So, like I said, as a software tester, your work starts from static testing, which has to do with documentation review. Do we have any questions before we proceed, please? Thank you.
For me, no. I mean, no. Static test can actually clarify all the documentation, the doubt, everything. So as soon as everything is okay, your test case is been done already.
Yeah, so you're reviewing test plan. You know, first thing you review first is the specification that has been provided, the documentation. You're reviewing if you understand it. Also, if it is correct, it is complete, it is readable, right? It has the acceptance criteria already identified by the product owner, right? And then if there are no, if it's not ambiguous, like some product owners can come up with ridiculous features to be added, but you know that as a tester, this is not something that we can do in this point in time, right? So you're actually reviewing that. Then at this point in time, you've come up with your test plan. After reviewing the user documentation, right, you move on to the next place of doing your test plan and also reviewing it. Then doing your test cases and also reviewing it before you now start executing, right? That's where we go to the dynamic testing part. All right, if there are no questions, then I can progress, please. Are we there, please?
Yes.
So what is the value? Like I've been reiterating the fact that static testing can detect defects in the earliest phases of the software development lifecycle, which fulfills the principle of early testing. Remember when we learned about the principles of testing, right? So where it says testing should be done early in the life cycle, right? So when you do your documentation review, like I said, it's possible that you might identify some bugs or some defects from the documentation, right? So it can also identify defects that cannot be detected by dynamic, because dynamic testing, you're already executing, you're already running tests. So it's possible, like from this documentation review, there are issues in that documentation. So this is what static testing actually helps to solve. So static testing also provides the ability to evaluate the quality of work products and to build confidence in work products. So it's possible that the BA has done due diligence on the user or requirement specification documentation or user stories. So the user story or that documentation is actually quality, right? So it would make your work easier when executing your test, and also when curating or deriving your test cases. So by verifying the documented requirement, the stakeholders can also make sure that this requirement describe their actual needs, because in the point in time, they're trying to solve a problem. So they understand that there's a problem, because most of these applications we have, it comes from the phase of probably apart from making money, yeah, but some product owners are trying to solve a problem. So they've identified a problem, they've identified a need, and then they are building an application to actually solve that need or meet that need. So you want to ensure that from what this product owner has explained, that these documents actually actually fulfill or describe their actual need. It's possible that the product owner might be saying, okay, I want my application to be able to, I want to have an app that can, how will I put it now? That a market woman can use, right? And then she can, I mean, rather than using your normal bank application to make payment and all that, no, this application is strictly for market traders. So somebody can come to the market and then buy certain things and all that. But this market user, right, they can actually use the app to do their transactions. And in the case where they have new products, they can also identify that, oh, maybe our egusi is available today. You can come and buy your so time the egusi will be going and all that stuff. So I have explained my need to the business, to the business analyst. And then the business analyst is now going to write something else. So you can see where your documentation review is coming in place. So you're trying to know that, okay, the actual needs of this product owner has been captured, has been documented. And in the case, it will now form as a foundation for the development of the application, because that is where it starts from, right? The Bible says it's the foundation which the work and the righteous do. So you're already establishing a foundation, right? So if your documentation is right, it captures the needs of the product owner. The UI guy goes to do his or her job, and then based on the documentation provided, does his or her job. The test cases that you have curated based on the documentation provides is able to capture the development done by the developer, because the developer has seen that documentation too, and also the design made available by the UI guy captures it too. So all that is just actually establishing foundation for the application. So even though reviews can be costly to implement, the overall project costs are usually much lower than when no reviews are performed, because less time and effort needs to be spent on fixing defect later. So static testing actually captures defects early. It captures defects early, and it cannot be overemphasized. Sorry, that's the word. It cannot be overemphasized. Do we have any questions so far? Because I've been hammering on static testing. Please, do we have any more questions, or do I proceed?
You can proceed.
All right. Okay, so this is static testing and also dynamic testing hand in hand. So static testing is known as verification. So you're verifying, while dynamic is validating. So you're validating what has been done. Static testing does not require execution of the source code, but dynamic requires execution of the source code. Static testing is all about prevention of the defects, while dynamic testing is all about detecting the defects. Static testing involves the document, the checklist, and the process to be followed, while dynamic has to do with the source code and the test cases for execution. Static testing doesn't have any code compilation needed. You're just reviewing documents. While dynamic testing, code should be compiled and in executable situation. So those are just the differences, and I'm sure it's quite explanatory because we have been on this. All right. So the cost of fixing the defects found is less because you're just in the documentation phase. Well, the cost of fixing the defect found is more. This one, you've already started execution, so it might be more. Static testing is done in early stages of the development life cycle, while dynamic is done in later stages of the development life cycle. Static testing requires lots of meetings, like I said, in the points where you don't even understand, there is no clarity, right? So you have a lot of meetings that you're trying to actually do to understand. And then you have meetings with the product owners, the business analysts, because everyone is trying to understand the needs of the product owner. While dynamic testing requires fewer meetings, this time it might be meetings. If you have 2 or more testers in the team, it might just be probably you or the 2 testers, right? And all. Then this testing is done before code deployment, right? Before any code is actually deployed, this testing is done. Like I said, it just has to do with the documentation review. Why this testing is done after code deployment? Because you're now executing the code. Then this static testing performs a dry run of the code as part of the static analysis of the code, while dynamic is fully analyzed. Static testing covers the structural and statement coverage testing, while dynamic testing covers the executable file of the code. So I know I've talked, I think last week we came across statement coverage and all. So we would go, as we go further, would actually look at it. So static testing consists of reviews, walkthrough, inspection, and static analysis of code. While this includes functional, non-functional testing, control flow, white box, black box, and all. These are the tools used for static. You have Suite, Eclipse, Checkstyle, Clang, SonarQube, Source Meter. While for dynamic, right, depending, you have Valgrind, Pokemon, and all that. So some of the tools that we use for static testing, like normally, I would use Confluence for my documentation. You can also use Jira, right? Then for dynamic, right? So you have your test cases already, and you can be conducting your manual tests and all. So these are the typical defects that are easier found via static testing. So these are examples now of the defects that you would actually find. Sorry, let me just plug in my laptop. So the defects you'll find, right, will be maybe inconsistency, ambiguity. I've talked about it, contradictions, omissions, inaccuracies, duplication when you're going through the document. Then you might even find out design defects, right? You can also find out deviations from standards. You can also find out incorrect interface specification. You can find out specific types of security vulnerabilities. You can also find gaps or inaccuracies in test-basis coverage. Yeah. So based on the acceptance criteria. So these are the defects that can be found doing static testing or defect, yeah. All right. So we move over to feedback and review process. But before we move back to this, do we have any question actually? Like compounding us with knowledge.
Can you go back?
Sure, I can.
Okay. So this defect can be detected through static via static testing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So sorry, my son is disturbing me. So deviation from standard. So how do you know if there's deviation? Because this is not a requirement, it's required from the clients. This is what they want. So how will you be able to not know?
So all that is documented actually in the requirements specification document. And it's possible that they had the business analyst has done his due diligence, right? So maybe there are some naming conventions that he has already mentioned in the document, right? So you can see, oh, there's a deviation from, because like I said, that document review, you need to really understand it. You need to understand it. So in the place where you don't have clarity, so that's why you now have meetings or committees to gain clarity. So it's possible like, okay, in the requirement document and also other documentations they are providing. So they are deviating, right? So probably based on your should I say on your experience, right? So some naming conventions in coding standard, that's for software developers now, right? So because they have their coding standards and all that stuff. So it's possible they did not adhere to it. So as a tester, you're already knowing it and then you're already flagging it, right? So these are just examples, but for me, the example I face that's being realistic now is probably omissions, inaccuracies, ambiguity, duplications, inconsistency, right? That's what I normally face.
Okay. So those things will be corrected. You have to flag it to who?
Yeah. So
To the
they'll not be
stakeholder?
corrected. Yeah. No.
You flag to the
Yeah, you flag to the product owner.
product owner.
Yeah, product owner, and then also the product owner has already sorry, you flag to the business analyst because the project owner has already voiced out what he wants. So the business analyst has captured it as a user story. So maybe the business analyst has not captured the entire thing of what the product owner wants. So you flag it to the business analyst that, CEO, it doesn't meet what the product owner, and then maybe you can reach out to the product owner to know, okay, or to gain more clarity, right?
Okay.
So the defect in requirement is comparing what the owner
Yeah,
provided, the requirement provided, the user story from the
exactly.
business analyst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the business analyst and the owner, they provide different documents.
No. The product owner is just saying.
That is what I think is I don't know if.
No, so what the product owner has provided is word of mouth. He is saying it, this is what I want.
Okay. Word of
Business
mouth.
analyst is capturing what he wants and putting it as a document.
Okay. So is that the requirement?
Yeah, he's saying the requirement. Okay, I want this, I want this, I want that. So the business analyst is now capturing it now in a well-detailed form. So it's
Okay, when he's saying I want this, I want that, were you there? Or is it like a meeting?
yeah, it's a meeting actually.
Okay.
So like I said, QAs would have to be involved in that meeting, but sometimes they don't bring QA at that point where we've seen. But ideally, in the initial meeting, where he's already documenting all that he needs, right? You should be there. But at the point where you're not there, so it's just the business analyst and then the product owner, right?
Okay. I think somehow.
Sorry?
Somehow he don't understand.
Okay, I'll take it again. The product owner is coming. I want to build an application. So he looks for a development team, or he looks for people that can code, then somebody to come up with the user stories, which is the business analyst or project manager, depending. He looks for the UI guy, then an initial meeting. Okay, I'll use a realistic one, probably the project I've been on. So one project I've been on, I was in the meeting where the product owner stated what he wanted. And then the business analyst said he was going to go back and come up with the user requirement. And he came up with it. Then we had to go through it to ensure, because majorly that meeting is always recorded. So you can go back to the recording to understand, or probably reach out to the product owner. Okay, does this, in fact, there's usually like a document review where you now review with the client to know that, okay, does this capture all your need? Is this what you want? Right. So now you're now looking at these documents carefully, because what people might do might just be high level review. They will not go deeper. But you're going deeper. So that's what it is.
Okay.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yes, please go ahead.
As a QA, do you still have access? Like what you just said now is that a QA have access to the product owner.
Yeah, so depending on where you find yourself, that's what we would always
Or
say.
is it project management or the manager that
Ye-
you relate your question to?
Yeah, so that's why I'll say depending. If you're a one-man team, you definitely have access to the product owner. If you're not a one-man team, right? If you're not a one-man team, right, it's possible. That's why I said depending on the environment you find yourself. So there are various environments. So it's possible that in an environment, you're a one-man team, but you don't have access to the product owner. The product owner every meeting goes through with the project manager, and then the project manager comes and gives you feedback. So you have environments like that. You also have environments where you are the one-man team. You have access to the product owner. So you can liaise with the product owner. You can always reach out to the product owner. That's another team. Another team is where you don't even have access at all because your QA manager is the one present in meetings, and then he will now come and give you people feedback. So depending on where you find yourself.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. Do we have any more questions before we go ahead, please?
Thank you.
All right. So for feedback and review process, early and frequent feedback allows for the early communication of potential quality problems. So if there is little stakeholder involvement during the software development lifecycle, the products being developed might not meet the stakeholders' original or current vision. So we would advise that the stakeholder, the product owner, is involved. So is involved with the review process so that the stakeholder would verify if whatever has been brought in meets his or her requirements. So a failure to deliver what the stakeholder wants can result in costly rework. Either means deadline, blame games that might not even lead to complete, and might even lead to complete project failure. That's the truth. So in the case where the guy has already said what he or she needs, right? And then the business analyst or project manager goes to do their work. They come back, right? And then it is not what the stakeholder actually wants. They've gone to document another entire application, right? So it's possible that that thing will be done again. The set time that you're looking at to complete this project is possible now because doing that user story is actually work. So sometimes some people can use a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, depending on the application in question or depending on the project at hand, right? So you need to actually have that review with the stakeholder so there'll be no back and forth, right? So frequent stakeholder feedback throughout the software development lifecycle can prevent misunderstandings about requirements and ensure that changes to the requirement are understood and implemented earlier, which is very, very necessary. So feedback and review process is very essential. So for every milestone done, right, you need to have a review session with the product owner. So the product owner, like I said, depending where you find yourself, you might not be in the meeting where he's giving his or her feedback. So depending, you might be in the meeting, he's giving his feedback. So depending where you find yourself. But it's essential that the stakeholder actually undergoes review at that's why we actually we preach the agile method, because agile method is done by milestone. So by every milestone, so the stakeholder can come, log into the meeting, and then you walk him through what has been done so far. If there are any issues, if he says, oh, no, I don't think you got it entirely at this stage, or no, I think we need to add even more things and all that. So that can be addressed early before the application goes to deployment stage. So basically, this feedback and review, it helps the development team to improve their understanding of what they are building. And that is the truth. It also allows them to focus on those features that deliver the most value to the stakeholders and that have the most positive impact on identified weeks. So some features now, when you have that review with the stakeholder, he might say, okay, I want you to focus on this, and I want this to be out in so time. So that is what your focus would actually be on. So feedback and review process, very important, very, very important. Do we have any questions?
So the business analysis, they are like a secretary now to the stakeholder. They're the one jotting everything that the stakeholder said. The stakeholder does not have their own personal draft that they will present in the meeting.
So sometimes it depends, right? They might just come up with a sketchy, but the business analyst is coming up with a well-detailed documentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in every milestone, so you have to review with the stakeholder if you have if you have access to him, or you will review it with a business analysis.
You review it with the project manager.
Oh, sorry, the project manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
You actually, so you review, what's it called? So there's a meeting that happens in every milestone. So where even though you don't have access, the meeting will still happen. So whoever has access to the product owner will conduct that meeting with the product owner. Do you understand?
But you must get a feedback probably
Yeah,
before
you get feedback from what was discussed.
yeah, so that your doubt will be clear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens in the review process activity? You have planning. So during the plan phase, the scope of the review, which comprises the purpose, the work product to be reviewed, quality characteristics to be evaluated, areas to focus on, exit criteria, this can be seen. Then review initiation can be seen. Individual review can be seen if there are any anomalies, communication and analysis, fixing and reporting. So this is actually what happens in review process activity. So what are the roles and responsibilities in review? You have the manager. So this is the manager decides what it needs to be reviewed and provides resources. Then you have the author, which creates and fixes the work product under review. You have moderator, known as the facilitator. So it ensures the effective running of review meetings. You have the scribe, the person that takes the notes, takes the new decisions and also the new anomalies found. You have the reviewer, the person that performs review, right? You have the review leader. So all these are just names because majorly, realistically, what is always in that meeting is majorly product owner, business analyst, project manager. Then if it's if a development team, if they have any head, so the head of development team would actually be there with the product
So
owner.
who is going to be the author from all this?
So the author will be the business analyst because it's the one.
He's making the
Okay.
changes.
Okay. And it's
Okay.
also going to be described. So
All right.
I would not take this now. I'll come back to it actually. So because this is advanced, so we don't and again we have about, let me say, 15 minutes to go. So I wouldn't take this now. I'll come back to slide 142 actually. All right. So if you are building a software, right, if you're developing a simple computer program which consists of only one source code file, you merely need to compile and link this one file to produce an executable file. This process is very simple, right? So a typical software consists of hundreds or even thousands of source code files, right? So software build can just be like the application build that you're actually coming up with, right? So the application you're actually churning out. So like, for example, now we have our bank application, which we're using Revolut. So this Revolut now, it's possible that this Revolut might be Revolut version 1. Then there's another one called version 2. Then there's another one called version 3, based on the changes that have been on the app. So it's just basically the build of the software, as the name implies. That's software build. I wouldn't come to smoke tests now or sanity. So I'm not even supposed to discuss software build because I would want us to come back to this later. So we actually to create a test case for a banking application called Merge. But like I said, would you want to explore on this assignment, or do you want us to take it before we start exploring?
And try like the way we did in the.
Okay, then you can try it. So create assignments, create a test case for a banking application called Merge. So Merge is your banking application. So create a test case for a bank. So like you have your UBA Access, Revolut. So create a test case for a bank application called Merge.
But you said you were going to get back to us on the one we did. We don't even know if we try. We don't even know anything. You said you were going to get back.
Let me even get back to us now. So sorry, let me stop sharing and share my screen again.
Wait, this test case that you said we should create, test case is created from a plan.
No, from the user.
From the requirement, sorry, from the requirement. Which requirement are we creating this one from now?
Well, that's why I said you should explore.
Explore what?
Just explore scenarios.
You know, the test plan you gave us like kind of templates to populate. Like this one, we'll just try like, because no templates.
No, I have templates, but I don't want to spoon feed you this time.
No, for me, I understand that from the requirement, that is what you read to understand.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you
requirement. From there, you will be able to draft your test case. You have to
okay.
read to understand before you draft your test case. What am I
Yeah.
reading from to draft my test case?
So okay. If it's requirement specification, that's why I said, okay, do we wait? But since we don't want to explore, so next week, this will be our next week assignment actually. So
But I would prefer we explore though, to be honest.
Even me too, even if we didn't get it right, you know, just the idea. But what I was asking,
do you have a requirement for this?
is what I'm asking, that, you know, templates to populate test case template is what I'm asking for. But she says she's not giving us.
Okay, no wahala. Let's just explore now. No wahala. Let's see.
just explore and come up with something actually. Then next week we can now take it further because we're now looking at test documentation.
But this question you're giving us now, you don't have any requirement for it that you can give for us to.
I can come up. That's what I'm saying. I'll just send a requirement and then you just work with it for.
Now you're talking.
All right. Let me just run us through this. Then I would, between tomorrow, today, tomorrow, I'll just drop the requirements. All right. So test documentation is a documentation of artifacts created before doing the testing of software. It helps the testing team to estimate testing efforts needed, test coverage, resource tracking. So this is where you have your test plan, your test case. This is when we're now supposed to be talking about it. We actually wanted you to explore, right? So why test formality? So you have your text documents. So for a newbie, it's easy to assume that testing is executing the various sections of code on an ad hoc basis and verifying the results. But in the real world, testing is a very formal activity and is documented in detail. Test documentation makes planning, review, and execution of testing easy as well as verifiable. So the degree of test formality depends on the type of application under test, standards followed by your organization, and then the maturity of the development process. So testing activities generally consume 30% to 50% of software development, while the documentation helps to identify the test process improvement that can be applied to future projects. So this is where you have your test plan, your test case, your test reports, your defect logs, and all that. So this is where the documentation comes in place. So types of testing documents. So you have the test policy. I think Mr. Jeremiah will see test strategy now is different from test plan. But the truth is that ideally, test strategy is usually in the test plan. Rather than you isolating it, you can just include it in the test plan. Do you understand?
Yes, I get it. Thank you.
So test policy has to do with a high-level document which describes principles, method, and all important testing goals of the organization. So the policy to be followed by the organization based on the testing principles that they have identified, right? So this is actually to keep the organization in check. Then you have the test strategy, like I said, this is based on the test level to be executed for the project, but it's usually contained in the test plan. Test plan has to do with the scope, the approach, the resources, the schedule. Then you have the requirements documents, which Mr. Jeremiah has been asking. So this is a document that connects the requirement to the test cases. So you also have the test scenario, right? So it's an item or event or a software system which could be verified by one or more test case. But test case, right, which I want us to do, is a group of inputs, values, execution preconditions expected. Then you have your test data. So this is what you use to actually carry out the test. You have your defect report. This is where you log your defects. Then you have the test summary report. So this is the one where you identify the summary of the test you have conducted. All right. So the best practice to achieve test documentation, QA team needs to be involved in the initial phase, right? So test documentation is created in parallel. So don't just create and leave the document, but updates whenever required. So whenever there's a change, whenever there's an update, you need to make those update and change. Then use version controls to manage and track your documents. Try to document what is needed for you to understand your work and what you need to produce to your stakeholders. Then you should use a standard template for a documentation like Excel sheet or doc file. You cannot be using anyhow, probably writing it on the sheet of paper. No, you're a professional. So store all your project-related documents at a single location. So maybe you have them on your shared drive. Like there are some project management tools we use, either Jira, either Trello, either you're using Confluence. So it's actually stored at a single location, right? Then not providing enough detail is also a common. You need to be detailed. Every detail is actually necessary. You need to be detailed. You cannot be vague, right? You need, like, if you're giving details, a 5-year-old need to understand what you're actually doing. So that is what it is actually. So what are the advantages of test documentation? The main reason behind creating test documentation is to either reduce or remove any uncertainties about the testing activity. So the main reason behind creating test documentation is to either reduce or remove any uncertainties about the testing. Sorry about that. Also, documentation not only offers a systematic approach to software testing, but also acts as a training material to freshers in the software testing process. So like we are now, we are learning how to do test plan, we're learning how to do test case and all. It is also a good marketing and sales strategy to showcase test documentation to exhibit a mature testing process. Then test documentation helps you to offer a quality product to the client within specific time limits, right? In software engineering, test documentation also helps to configure or set up the program through the configuration document and operator manuals. Test documentation helps you to improve transparency with the client. So those are the advantages of test documentation. So like I said, I'll drop the requirement document for merge. Then you just need to come up with the test case, just explore, because next week we are going to be going further into this test documentation. So we'll see what we did wrong in the test plan that we did, and also like the template I shared, the ideal test plan for any application or web application you're actually doing. So do we have any questions so far before we call it a day?
I don't have, it's just
No.
to go through and have more insight.
For now, no.
Can you go back to the question? Want to jot it down? Assignment rather.
And please, don't forget to send us the requirements.
Oh, yes, definitely. I wouldn't forget. I wouldn't forget. Do we have any questions, any clarity, or everything is clear?
Yeah, everything is clear. So, and we still need to review.
Yeah, do revision.
All right. Please, we can just go. Yeah, we can just look at what
settle down.
Yeah, look at the document that Mr. Mani has shared for further reading.
Where did you check the document?
He sent it on the chat. This chat.
WhatsApp chat. Oh, here.
No, here.
Chat.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great. So I'll be engaging with us on WhatsApp.
But in case if we get stuck at some point, we can always.
Yeah, my number is on. Yeah, can always reach out to me.
Okay.
All right. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.